you've got the organizational skills down to a T, and you've got the focus
that
you're driven. But I mean, your children, they're not always like.
No.
So tell me, how do you get them motivated and engaged with their responsibilities every day?
Honestly, yeah, that's a big struggle. I think that that's one of the big struggles of parenting in general, is that just connecting with them and encouraging them to walk in the way that you're setting before them, that this is a good path, this is a path of joy, figure out what's going on in their heart and then pray for them and just try to keep encouraging them to it, and then there's...
This is Tiny Notes from Home, a place of inspiration and encouragement for your family as you journey with Jesus.
From the home of a God-loving, Christ-honoring family like yours, here's today's Tiny Note. Well, thank you, Sarah, for having us here, and I'm excited to talk to you about homeschool stuff. We're in each other's lives, so it's something we talk about a lot anyway, but I'm excited just that we can share this with our audience and hope it can be a blessing. Yeah, so I guess just so we can kind of set a broader context, could you share, why do you personally homeschool? Why did you guys choose to do that?
Well, I did not grow up homeschooling. I was public schooled all through my education, and I had a really good experience with that. But when Eric and I got married, we actually started attending a fellowship where majority of the family's homeschooled, which was actually kind of a new concept to me. I didn't know a lot about it, and I was really interested in it. A lot of those women welcomed me into their crazy routines and days, and I just really appreciated their realness, and I loved the relational aspect of it, just the idea that our children are our greatest treasure and gift in this life, and to think of just making the most of that time that we have with them while they're with us and under our roof. And so I was really heavily influenced by a lot of those ladies, and they all used various curriculums, did it various ways, but I really just appreciated the heart of keeping your children close and being able to pour into who they are and their character development, using education as a tool in that. Right. So Eric and I both, as we were married for 3 years before we had our first daughter, and when we had Jubilee, we just kind of both felt in our heart that was the direction God wanted us to go, and I've just been on a journey of figuring that out ever since then. This basically discipleship and education just comes as another huge tool in that process. Yeah, I mean, the blessing of homeschooling is you are with your children, you're able to see what are they learning, how are they processing things, and what are their influences. Yeah, you're able to shepherd that. You're not able to learn it for them or even make up their mind about things, but you're there as an influence and a guide, because there's just so much to process, in life and in the world around us. And so, just being close and helping them with that. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we are in your dedicated homeschool room space. Yeah. And not everybody has that, Definitely. I know you've said you've schooled in just a small space before. We've lived in a camper before. We've had a 900 square foot house where we were just in a little cubby hole. And then the house we're in now, it's a blessing. We do have a lot of space. We wanted to have room to host people and have people in our home. We've had someone living with us over the last year or so. And so this room lends itself to having a lot more space to do the daily activities of homeschooling. But there's ways to be creative and use whatever space you have. Organizing is something I really enjoy. I know that's not the case with everybody, but I do feel like it helps keep things moving forward, and it helps the kids, be able to locate things on their own when you have various ages and stages. And Absolutely. It can give you, just a guide for the day. You're like, okay, let's go over here and do this while they're over there doing that. Kind of give some space, separate people with activities. So I do like to organize. So you have zones, sort of. Yeah. We have a 14-year-old daughter at the top, and then we have a 5-month-old baby at the bottom. Yeah, so talk about how many children are you schooling too? Yeah, so we have 6 children, but we're schooling 5 of them. And so, Judah's just doing preschool. He's about to be 4 years old, so he's very busy, as everyone knows. And so it really has been helpful for us to take him and pair him with a sibling at a time. And so that's kind of the way he works during the day, and then I have a period of time I work with him too. But I just have a ton of kind of educational play things with him, basically. And then he is doing basic letters and numbers with his sisters. So that's the toddler. And then up into the grades, we have somebody who's doing 2nd grade, and then we have up through middle school. And so, when we're doing a normal day, we get started together. That's something I like to do. We try to start together and just make sure we're relationally right with each other before we get going on things, because we have morning chores and all that beforehand, so can get a little chaotic at times. And so just coming back and centering again, and we usually, do some songs that Judah would like, or stretches or something to just kind of get everybody involved and get Judah excited about doing school. And then we move into doing the different subjects. I have done a variety of different things, used a variety of different curriculums, but as of right now, we're using some Good and the Beautiful, we're using some Gather Round, and we're using Gentle Classical Press for Judah's preschool. So those are the things I've been using right now, but again, I've used a lot of things. My Father's World is what I started out with, and I really enjoyed that. But at that time, I only had 2 doing it, so it was easy to just sit at the table with them. So at their desk, because we have space for desk here, each child has a box, and it has all their materials that they would need for the various subjects, just as a way at the beginning of the day, they're all there, and then at the end of the day, hopefully, they're all there again. So it's a good way to check on things. And so each child will start with something different. We also do piano lessons, so we involve music as well. So each person has kind of like a 30 to 45 minute time that they work on a certain thing at their desk, and then it switches. And again, one sister is usually with Judah doing some educational things while I'm working with my second grader. And then for history and science, I've chosen to keep those as kind of like a family discussion or read aloud. So right now we're reading through Angela Odell's World's History book. But we've done all sorts of different read alouds, fictional, historical, text, more textbook-like. And so we'll sit together at the table or at the couches while Judah's playing and read aloud together and do some narration back, and usually do some art about those things. So in a given day, we try to get to all those various subjects, but as everybody knows, every day is different, and I appreciate that about homeschooling because it makes it fun. And we might be working on some cooking projects upstairs, or we might be working on some yard work or something, and that is also part of them learning, so it looks different.
That's right. And so how many hours a day would you say you spend typically doing school?
I would say we get a good solid 3 hours. Sometimes it can go closer to 4 if we, do those extra subjects together and get involved in any kind of project with that. But the toddler obviously doesn't do it for that long, but we try to do letters and numbers for, an hour or so. Just games and cards, flashcards.
So do you try to get done before lunch, or do you?
We do try. We try to get done before lunch. Our lunch has gotten later and later as my kids have gotten older. But we do try to get done before lunch with all the core things, and then if we haven't got to read aloud, then we'll do that, after lunchtime when Judah's taking his nap. So
Right. I think one thing that I really appreciate about what I see in your life is like the organizational skills.
Thank you.
So maybe you could just walk us around and just kind of show me how you have things, why you have them the way you have them. What does a normal day look like for you guys? And then we can look at some of maybe the curriculum you use.
Right. That'd be great. So these are the desks that I have set up for each of my children, and then we have a table in the center where we can still work together when we want to. This table's been around a while for art projects and things, but each of them, an affordable way that I found when we were actually living in our camper was to just get these cheap crates and to do some hanging file folders, and that way I can keep their papers organized. In the front we have different, sections, some history, drawings, some vocabulary, some cards they're working on memorizing, capitals and states, and then they keep their book that they're reading. So anytime my kids don't have something to do, they're supposed to write a letter to a family member or read their book. So obviously it doesn't work perfect, but it's good that they have a go-to if they get finished or if I can't get to them right then. So they have that in here as well, and then they have their various subjects. So Nehemiah is doing the 5th grade of language arts with the Good and the Beautiful right now, and he's still working on Singapore math, and then he has in the back he has some handwriting, and then he has just notepads for free drawing or free writing. So tell me, do you keep this organized for him, or is he actually very organized? He keeps his stuff pretty well organized. Actually all my kids have gotten into the habit of doing it pretty well because we done it for a while.
Yeah.
But I think at first it can be a struggle, but usually like if I'm going through and checking his language arts, I'll be like, let's go through your box and make sure. I think that's the key to staying organized, honestly, is just kind of setting aside a certain time to clean up and clean out, because we all know that we can just get overtaken by papers and extras.
Yeah, so how do you organize? That's one thing I wanted to ask you, because you're the organizational person. As far as like, one thing I get bogged down in is like, okay, so we have what we're working on, but then there's all this other kind of like stuff that I have that I'm like, how does this fit into what we're doing right now, or stuff they've already done even? How do you organize all of that?
In the closet over here, I keep some big boxes at the top.
Okay.
And in there I keep like projects that they might have ongoing or things like that, like art projects. There's a basket down here as well that are things the girls are working on painting right now.
Okay.
So instead of having that sprawled out everywhere, if they want to come back to it, they know it's in that basket. A friend of mine jokes, she said I'm the queen of baskets, because it's true. Like, I think baskets are really helpful, because if you have like an art basket, and then you have like mom needs to check this basket or whatever, and just get them to throw it in there, it makes it kind of easy, and it keeps the room from getting overtaken.
Yes.
So in the closet we also have
all right, before we get more into the curriculum, we're going to send you upstairs to check in with the dads, but don't go away, because we're going to meet you right back down here in a few minutes.
Eric, thanks for having us into your home.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us borrow your wife's organizational brain.
Absolutely.
And your beautiful homeschool space. So we'll be sort of brief so we can get back to the ladies downstairs. So what's your role in homeschooling? Are you teacher, principal? Are you the PE, the gym teacher? What's your job?
I'm just daddy.
Just daddy.
Yeah. I really like church history. I really like theology, and so when it comes to the Bible, when it comes to teaching about the faith, and I'm far more involved, but that's not necessarily classroom type stuff. That's just everyday life conversations with the kids. And I would say probably my role is especially in the summer, it's dad gets home from work and they've done school all day, and it's time to go to the creek, or it's time to go have some fun together. And
so you're the break from school.
Yeah, that's maybe a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Nice. And so do you feel like you need to support your wife in her homeschool efforts? I mean, obviously, it seems like she can carry a lot of the load there, but what kind of conversations do you guys have behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's awesome at what she does with the children. I would say as a husband, my predominant role with my wife is coming alongside of her. Like, we talk about all the vision, we talk about which direction we want to go. I'm a part of those conversations, I'm giving oversight for those conversations. But I would say every day, like, my wife needs my encouragement. I mean, homeschooling is extremely difficult, and I get to go to work. I say get to go to work. I mean, I leave the house. I oftentimes, with the job that I have, I can take my children with me. And so,
but you're not thinking about what's happening in the basement most of the time.
No, I'm not. It's more of Sarah and I will debrief from the day. And I guess I would say that this may connect more to like the discipleship side of what she does. She's a part of their lives every day. She's seeing what's going on. She sees their struggles. She sees their gifts. She sees their talents. And so then we talk about that. She says, this child is struggling in this area. And so then as a dad outside of the school, I'm teaming up with her to help bring shepherding to those things. And so I would say that would be the primary way that I support Sarah. Mm-hmm. It's more of the just relational support to actually have motivation to go through another day.
So it sounds like you are involved in a lot of ways, at least, kind of on the outside of the day-to-day basis.
Right.
And beyond that day-to-day homeschool focus, what are you hoping to instill in your children's hearts? What's the big picture for you as the shepherd of your children and the spiritual provider of this home?
Right. if they can encounter Jesus and know him, like in their own life, if they can encounter him and learn what it's like to live by the Spirit and live in obedience to his voice, that is the ultimate goal that I have for my own kids. And thankfully I have good examples of that. I watched my parents do the same thing, you know, and I think too, a lot of us are like just worried we're going to make mistakes and do it wrong and all of these things.
And we will sometimes.
Yeah, and we will. I mean, all of our parents have made mistakes, but we've grown through those mistakes. And so we make mistakes all the time, and we try to bring our children into that and apologize and ask forgiveness and attempt to encounter Jesus and in those situations. And so, yeah, I just want them to really know God and walk with him.
Amen.
And that be the force that guides their life.
Amen. Well, I think, again, you're doing those things well, and we all have a lot to learn from each other. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and insight with us today. And we will head back into the basement and finish up the conversation with the ladies.
Sounds good.
All right, so these are the baskets I was talking about. So this is a Play-Doh basket. So like you said, sometimes Judah will want to do this while we're at the table, but then at the end of it, we just dump it back in here and can put it away. The end is magnets and some Lego projects. These are both craft box that the girls do, and they have another box over there as well to just kind of keep their ongoing work there, because can't always get to the end of things. And so instead of leaving it out, but that is one benefit of having this extra space, is that sometimes we can leave it out to the end, but if we can't, I just have these big baskets. And this is our nature study bag, so that's something we do as much as we can, but it has, you know, magnifying glass, pencils, markers, a notebook for each person, some of our resource books for like birds and wildflowers, stuff like that. So we can just grab it and go. And that's been something we've enjoyed since the girls were little. So
wow, I just love to get a little bit of your organization in my mind. That's awesome. Yeah, and so you were showing me how you organize.
Yes.
Some of the stuff that I was saying, like, you know, it's like your children from year to year, you know, now different states have requirements on how much you do or what you save and everything. But for me, that's one thing I don't always know, like, what should I hold on to? What should I you know, and it's always a challenge because you don't want to just have so much stuff that you're saving. You don't need to save all of it. So.
So I do have a big tub, you know, in our storage area that has their, you know, the core of their notebooks that they've done or completed. And so I put that away each year. But as far as like loose papers and drawings or them writing things for the first time, things like that, special things. I keep this kind of larger expandable file. You can buy so many different varieties of these. I've had a few different ones. But if you keep it small, then you can it starts to get full, and then you have to sort through it and choose what actually is, you know, because you might think you want to keep it, and then when you compare it to other things, you're like, okay, we don't need to keep that.
So earlier we touched on keeping your toddler busy. You said like you have your children kind of switch out and take him for a little bit. So can you talk a little bit more about how you schedule that in, and then also what kinds of things do they do with him? And how do you do that?
Usually first thing in the morning, I try to get Judah focused on letters and numbers and any of the more like focused time, you know, right after breakfast and chores. So Jubilee, our oldest, usually starts with him first. So play and school mixed together with a sibling, and I think it's been good for all of them. Even my younger boys will take a turn later in the afternoon, and I will let them free play, but I most of the time say, before you play, why don't you work on him with number 3? So ride 3 circles with your bike, or count 3 this, you know.
Very good. Yes, it does help to have things planned, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and if I have a morning where I don't have something totally planned, or the night before we're late with hosting people or something, I have a whole shelf of boxes that are kind of pull-out boxes for Judah, and so I'll say, go get the blue box. And it's just full of various little things, like farm animals with some trucks, or, you know, blocks with little people, or something like that. So you can just kind of pull them and start doing something on the rug.
Now, I mean, you've got the organizational skills down to a T, and you've got the
I don't know about
focus that you're driven. But I mean, your children, they're not always like.
No.
So tell me, how do you get them motivated and engaged with their responsibilities every day?
Honestly, yeah, that's a big struggle. I think that that's one of the big struggles of parenting in general, is that just connecting with them and encouraging them to walk in the way that you're setting before them. So yeah, honestly, we have, our just sit down and talk through it. Why is this hard for you right now? What's going on? Figure out what's going on in their heart, and then pray for them and just try to keep encouraging them to it, and then there's obviously discipline, and there's the correction side of things, and then there's just encouraging them along, just like I need to be encouraged along by the Lord in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
right, it takes a lot of sacrifice.
Sure.
I think as parents and as moms, homeschooling is a sacrifice. It is not always easy, but
and remembering that we're doing it for the Lord, like for His glory, not looking at the result of the day, but that we kept our heart toward the Lord and we persevered in the challenges, even though we didn't do it perfect, no day is perfect. And I think the more that we can let go of like the ideal day or the ideal result or the ideal school and we can just embrace what we have and where our kids are at, and just kind of try to let God be glorified in what's there.
Okay, so as we close or wrap up a little bit, just want to kind of bring it back around to what you were saying in the beginning about like your vision and like why you even started homeschooling.
Right.
Just as far as like that intentional time with your children, being able to shepherd their hearts and disciple them. So how do you intentionally bring that into your day?
Right. Yeah. I think that is an ongoing thing that I'm learning. And I think as our children change ages and stages, and even as we've moved different fellowships and been in community with different people, there's just always something new to learn about that and what that process looks like. I think that our family, honestly, we are not a good poster family for the same Bible time every day. My husband's job varies, and our mornings seem to just vary, and so we don't have necessarily. Yeah, exactly. So it's okay, everybody. But yeah, just encouraging them though in the midst of a struggle, inviting Christ into that. Modeling to them when they're struggling that Christ is there and that God is for them and with them, and modeling that when I'm struggling, stopping, praying, taking a break, reading scripture together, encouraging each other, asking them to pray for me. Yeah, all those things that are just so beautiful to share as a family. And then when we have people over, around the table, trying to let them hear other people's testimonies, like surrounding them with other families that are also on this journey of faith, so that they can hear what other people are doing and how other people met Christ and how they're living for Him. I think it's good for them to see, especially as they get into teenage years. Outside, they're looking outside the family, wondering, hey, what is everybody else doing, and so surrounding them with people who will influence them toward the Lord. So
it's a living faith. It's a lifestyle. It's not just read this book, sit here, do this. It's in every aspect of our lives. It's a living faith,
living by the Spirit and relying on the Spirit in all things. Even schooling.
Is there anything else that you feel like sharing or?
Yeah, just thanks for asking us to share. I think that just again, like I said before, I think the more we can just be free to do our school the way that God is leading us, and not so. I think this world is just communicating so much of what you should do and how it has to look. And now, because of the homeschool pioneers, there's whole gymnasiums full of curriculum to choose from, and so you always are doubting, did I get the right thing? Is this the best thing? Did I do enough? So instead of maybe focusing so much on what you're not doing, just really invest in what you are doing, and your kids are going to feel that. They're going to feel the love behind what you're doing as a mom, and just gotta, just give your all to what you are doing, and don't compare yourself to others, but just be faithful where you're at and let God bring the fruit from that.
Yeah, that is so encouraging. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So we hope you all were blessed to visit our friends, the Kilgores, today and see how they do their homeschooling. I know we picked up a lot of practical tips along the way. How about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, and not only practical things, but just getting that inspiration for our day-to-day. You know, sometimes we just need a fresh perspective. So we hope that you have also been inspired by that and just inspired in your journey with the Lord.
So that's all for this tiny note. We pray the Lord's blessing of peace upon your family as you seek to honor Him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Until next time. What's your thoughts on our meeting today, Lindsay?
Sorry. Why don't you do that over again?
So with that, we're going to sign off. We love you guys. God, oh no, that's not what we say.
We say
until
next time or something.
No, we say, here we go.
All right.